Time now for our Upstream from Politics segment, because as you know, Andrew Breitbart made famous the phrase, culture is upstream of politics. Actually, the phrase was politics is downstream from culture. This is why I'm new here. Joining me right now to discuss that and so many other things related to the intersection of politics and culture, the expert in that realm. He is the host of the Andrew Klavan Show at the Daily Wire, screenwriter, author of the brand new book, A Strange Habit of Mind. He is Andrew Klavan. Andrew.
Great to see you.
Great to see you too, my friend. Thanks for being here.
And congratulations on the show.
Thank you. Well, you know that I'm nothing without you. I mean, we do go all the way back to Andrew Breitbart days.
We're Breitbart veterans.
I first met you. You were one of those voices that I would have never heard were it not for Andrew Breitbart. I mean, from your films, of course, and your novels, but not in this realm.
Right.
Before we get into some of the things that are going on right now, do you reflect sometimes and think about your life journey as novelist, screenwriter, and now, Daily Wire podcaster and sort of political commentator?
It's amazing. Most of the things that I do now didn't exist when I started working, so that's really strange.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of being out in the open, the whole point of being a writer is you sit in a room by yourself. Every now and again you open the door and throw a book out and slam the door again,
Yeah.
And now suddenly you become a public figure and people recognize you. It's a strange transition.
Well, and your books are, and again, the new one is A Strange Habit of Mind. Your books are, they're thrilling because they are thrillers,
Right.
Most of them, and they you create a sense of tension and drama when you write a book, which is an art. And we're told that conservatives, why aren't conservatives in Hollywood? Why aren't conservatives? And we're told that they're not artists. They don't have artistic sensibilities. Could you speak to that, please?
I think it's a funny thing. I think the best artists working right now, guys like Tom Stoppard, Cormac McCarthy, I would include, me, I think are people
David
Mamet, I think are actually people who shift toward the right. What they have is they have the numbers. They have the people who are good. The great ones tend to be more realistic. Look, the arts depend on reality. They depend on a realistic sense of what the world is about. That's the conservative expertise. That is what we are very good at. What the left is really good at is making up fantasy stories about their fantasy world where socialism works and race matters and all these things that they love to believe. And they're good at it, and they have the numbers, and so they're going to make so many films that some of them are going to be terrific. And we make almost no films. We make almost no novels. And so every one has to be good.
Well, and we slip into this habit, I think, especially in Hollywood, because I used to work in the entertainment business. I was in LA, and a lot of conservatives are, we should make our own conservative movie. And that right there is the problem, because they try to make a conservative movie instead of just a good movie that reflects their personal conservative values.
Exactly. What I try to do is I just try to write the world as I see it. Write people living in the world as I see it, as honestly as I can. There are no guys who are bad because they vote Democrats or good because they vote Republican. That's ridiculous. I'm not writing propaganda. I'm writing stories. And stories are about the spirit. And the thing is, in the spiritual realm, Democrats aren't evil and Republicans aren't great. It's just what we believe in, the essential things we believe in: freedom, independence, the individual mind, the individual heart. Those things are what fuel art. They're what make art art.
Always have.
Yes, and they always have.
Always have.
Right.
That's why you look at some of the great art. It's always about the individual spirit or our relationship with God, which, by the way, is also a conservative
Hugely
value these
important.
days, sadly.
But important to remember that the guys who founded this country were not watching Doris Day movies. They were reading Greek tragedy. They were reading Shakespeare. They were reading complex and viewing complex works of art that looked into the human spirit. And I think conservatives too often want conservative art to look like conservative life. It doesn't.
Yeah. Although, let's be fair, if there were Doris Day movies back in the 18th century, Franklin would have been all over them, right? Come on.
Absolutely.
You'd be quoting them.
Especially if she showed some leg.
Right. Oh, please, that goes without saying. I have not read A Strange Habit of Mind, but I have read some of your other books, and it's jarring because you're kind of a psychopath.
Yeah, a little
bit. No, you really are. I mean, some of your books are scary, and you get into the mind of some of these bad guys. Knowing that you, I think, have a growing conservative audience with different principles and different values, and you're a very devout, believing Christian yourself, Sometimes when you get into your artistic flow, do you have to pause for a minute and say, oh, this might be getting a little too creepy?
Well, over time, actually very early on in my career, before I was a believing Christian, I started to realize that violence and bloodshed were just too easy. That every time I stopped and asked myself, can I do this another way, the book got better. And so my books actually have gotten less violent over time and less bloody over time. And this is the sequel to When Christmas Comes, which did very well last year.
Great book.
And this is a series, I'm hoping to make it into a series, about a guy who's got a very dark past, who's looking for a way to become a good man. And I think that that's a question that the culture is asking right now. Yeah. What is a good man? What makes a good man? And because we haven't found it yet, our arts are in a complete slump.
Well, no, I think we have found what makes a good man. First, you have to be born a woman.
And then have your parts cut off. And exactly. Yeah.
Your colleague Matt Walsh over there, I think, has already dissected it. Although I want to get to that, because What is a Woman and some of the other documentaries that we've seen from the conservative world, I think are really impactful and make a big difference and must be made. But it's not enough. I hear you talk about this a lot. I say it all the time. Yeah. Conservatives can't just be making documentary after documentary. We have to get into fiction, into utilizing prose to actually tell a story with characters. Why is that different? Why does that make a bigger impact?
Well, a wonderful documentary like Matt's can have a hard-hitting impact on a moment. It can have a hard-hitting impact on a political idea. It can get somebody freed from prison if they're innocent and they were wrongly convicted. It can do all kinds of wonderful things. What the arts do is they actually build and erode very slowly. I mean, what the left has been doing for 60, 70 years is eroding the ground under your feet. You stand on the beach and you feel the water go in, you feel the sand pulled out from under you. That's the way the arts work, because they affect what James Joyce called the conscience of the race. They basically kind of give you a way of seeing things that grows over time. And if we don't have a voice in that influence, we're not going to be able to change the way people see things. The things that have become acceptable, like cutting people up, cutting healthy children up to change their sex, they wouldn't have been acceptable if these guys hadn't been working to destroy the idea of gender for 60, 70 years. They happen to be wrong. They happen to be wrong about the human condition, so their arts are a lie, but you can do a lie very well.
I don't know if you spoke with our producer before this interview, but we do have a rule about quoting James Joyce.
I'm sorry if he didn't tell me. No, it's a fine.
We're going to let that one go, but it's just one, Andrew Klavan. Real fast, it's ironic because we just had this film release called Bros. It's supposedly the first gay rom-com movie, and it's absolutely tanked. Yeah. And the director, Billy Eichner, I think is his name. He blamed all the crazy homophobic Americans. Seems to me they made the mistake that conservatives did. They didn't want to make a good movie. They wanted to hey, let's make a movie about two men who fall in love.
Well, what I love about this, because they did this with the Lady Ghostbuster thing,
Yes.
It's because you're a sexist. I don't like superhero movies, so I didn't like the movie Black Panther. Well, you must be a racist and all this stuff. And what I love about this is these are guys driving around in Bentleys, taking their kids to rehab with their fourth wife. They're complete messes, but they have everything in the world. And we're just going to the movies and eating our popcorn, and they're saying, well, if you don't like my movie, you're a racist. I don't like your movie because you suck. How about that? and I think the only thing I would have to say is, though, conservatives can't get into the habit of celebrating their failures. We have to create our successes. They're never going to change their minds. Hollywood is never going to change. We have to build an alternative Hollywood and an alternative publishing industry and all the other things in order to fight back.
Yep, well said. He is America's sweetheart. He's Andrew Klavan, and his new book, A Strange Habit of Mind. And you're local now, so I expect you to come back and visit studio
I'm always
very
happy to
often
come
here
by.
in D.C. Yeah. Excellent. More to come tonight on O'Connor Tonight.